Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble! What's up? What's up? What's going on? What's good? This is the October 11th, 2020 episode of the Boxing Source Radio Show. I'm your host, James Bell, lead boxing analyst for the Cold Truth on Sports, the Go Long Media, and the leader of the Boxing Source on social media. You can follow us on Facebook, of course, through the Boxing Source. You can like the page. We're also on Instagram through the Boxing Source. You can also follow us on Twitter at Boxing Source 2. And we do have the YouTube channel, which is doing a simulcast of tonight's live show. Number to dial in, 347-237-5539. That is 347-237-5539. Press one key to get on queue, and you'll be able to talk live on the show. We have a special guest that will be calling in here within a few minutes. We'll be talking about a few things in the boxing scene. And then, after that, we're going to touch on breaking down the upcoming big fight in the lightweight division there. So I think we have it scheduled within the next 5 minutes or so that he will be calling in, and we will be breaking things down. Shout out to those that are, on the simulcast right now. Shout out to DC Mike TV that's joining us through the simulcast right now. DC Mike, putting down in the DMV here for years and years. So shout out to him. But we're going to be, breaking a few things down as far as like what's happening with Loma and Teofimo Lopez that is scheduled for October 17th on ESPN. But we, also have a few other fights that are going to be part of that card. So that, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a pretty good one out there. I know that, we had some action with the WBO featherweight championship that was on the line on Friday night. Emmanuel Navarrete versus Ruben Villa. Navarrete moving up from, super bantamweight. And getting a thing there to put himself as number one contender there for that WBO featherweight championship that was vacated by Shakur Stevenson. And Ruben Villa was one that kind of like ended up as the top remaining contender for Navarrete to fight. So you had Navarrete get the decision win to win that WBO featherweight title. I guess he'll face Magdaleno later on down the line. I don't know about that because Magdaleno was the top contender and he didn't want to, I guess, fight for the vacant belt at this particular time. Then you also had Mick Conlan that was also a top contender in the WBO, but he just couldn't. He just said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and move down in weight. So that's how Emmanuel Navarrete became the top contender there, going up against Ruben Villa. But we should have our guest, coming up in here real soon, I think. We got from the area code 240 on here live with us. What's up? What's up? You're on the Boxing Social Radio Show. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's up? Yeah, you're on live with us. What's going on? I think they had the thing on thing you had on speaker or something like that. So put them on hold so we get our guests on here to talk in live with us. But like I was saying, um, you had the live, the that fight that was on Friday with Emmanuel Navarrete against Ruben Villa. I mean, Villa was a tough customer. They're kind of like gave different looks for Emmanuel Navarrete, but Navarrete was still there, so consistent. Was going into try to break down Ruben Villa. Was able to score a couple of knockdowns in that particular fight, but was not able to necessarily finish them off. So it went the full 12 rounds. Uh, and like I said, you had Navarrete getting the decision victory, and he'll be there with that WBO featherweight title. And it'll be you got to see like what's going to happen as far as like what he does next. Like I said, you did have um, you know Magdaleno that put himself in position to fight for the WBO belt, but then just said I'd rather not fight Emmanuel Navarrete right now. And of course, you had Mick Conlon there at featherweight, and then moved down to super bantamweight, and he's high ranking contender there at super bantamweight, but we just had the vacant title uh, pretty much decided in there. So that we'll kind of like talk about that a little bit later. But right now, we should have our guest on cue here right now from the Washington D.C. area and a well-known ring announcer from the D.C. area. He's fairly discombobulating, but that's the nickname, Mr. Henry Discombobulating Jones. What's going on, brother?
We're ready to do it, so let's get to it. Hey, man, it's a pleasure for me to be here on the podcast, The Boxing Source, the number one resource, of course.
Oh, without a doubt. without a doubt. So let's get to it, my man. I'm glad that you're on here for this particular podcast, man. And just wanted to, chop it up here with you for a little bit and get some, more information. Like you said, there, well-renowned ring announcer, been in the game for a good amount of years. So, you could break that down as far as like, when you started and, your, kind of like presence here in the Washington, D.C. area and beyond.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. I before that, I tried a whole lot of things, man. I was traumatized coming up in middle school and trying to be the main actor on stage and those stage plays. Never got on stage. Was the understudy to a white woman, always. So I think I was on a mission to become renowned, become recognized, and so I tried other things. Tried to be a comedian. Got the egg on stage one night and realized the joke was on me. You understand? Nah, they didn't laugh either. Okay, so I tried to be a color commentator. That didn't work out. Tried to be an actor. That didn't work out. The director said, "You got stage presence. I can see you playing on film in about 40 years." I said, 40 years? He said, "Yeah, you got to go through that pain." I said, "Nah, man, I ain't hanging around for that." So he thought about something I could do. I said, "I've been watching boxing all my life, really, as a young boy from, Muhammad Ali days." I said, "Okay, it's only two guys. then living through them vicariously. Let me try that. So I went to the DC Mountain Commission in 1988. And then the commission at the time, they rest in peace now, was Mr. Gilbert Ware. He said, well, we didn't have any contracts for you to be a commentator like you trying to be, but what about the ring announcer if you want to be on the microphone? And I said, no, I wasn't thinking about that. He said, why not? I don't know. And he said something that gave me that epiphany moment. The light bulb went off in my mind. He said, well, you know, there have never been any prominent black ring announcers in the history of boxing. Somebody got to be the first. Why don't you take the challenge? And I took the challenge on the spot. And, you know, here we are, man, 31 years later. I'm 32 now. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, my mentor is Michael Buffer, who's at on stage at, you know, just about every place for boxing, Madison Square Garden, Radio City Music Room, Trump Taj Mahal even, you know, and, you know, it's been a blessing. I wrote a book. He wrote the foreword for the book. And last summer, I was over in China. I announced over there for Manny Pacquiao Promotions. They really appreciated me over there. To be perfectly honest, they have not appreciated me here at home. And it's simply due to pigmentation, skin color. And when I say that to people, they say, oh, that can't be the reason. When I ask them, have you ever seen another black ring announcer? Ever?
Ever.
Nobody has. So don't tell me it's coincidence, because I know it's not. I know what I've been through, what I'm still going through, but, you know, all praise to God. I know that's about to change, man, because we got some big things coming up. Big things. Just today, I was on a conference call with a group that had some money behind it trying to put Layla Ali and Clarissa Shields together, you know, for sometime next year. And so I'm going to be the ring announcer for that, you know. Yeah. And just, you know, that would be a lesson for youth in particular out there. Follow your own dreams, no matter how long it takes.
Yep.
What else you going to do?
Yep, and you know, like you're saying there in reference to at least within the boxing game, you don't necessarily, you know, get those, you know, type of, you know, opportunities, you know, whether it's, you know, in ring announcing or, you know, covering the sport, you know, as like, at least for me, it's like media is kind of, you know, it's been like kind of tough to, you know, get your foot in the door for a few things, but you know, as long as, you know, I stay consistent at it, that, you know, those opportunities opened up. And, you know, you're talking, and, you know, you're talking about
every delay is better than now. Every delay is better than now. You know, you other people can share your vision, but you don't even want to have it for yourself.
Right.
You know, they can jump on your bandwagon and all that. You got to see it for yourself first, and then you have to, you know, believe it so you can achieve it. So, yeah, man, you know, it's the power of perseverance and faith. If you know you got the skill set, go for it. Question is, and this is what Manny Stewart asked me years ago before he died. He said, Jones, you got the skill, but do you have the will? I said, what you mean by that? He said, you know, it's going to be tough for you. That's why, you know, nobody's seen another black ring announcer. He said, I had one back in the 70s, real dark-skinned guy. He said networks wouldn't let him go on TV. He said, I was coming up as a power, you know, out of the crime gym with my stable. He said the networks wouldn't let him announce the fight on TV. And the man died of a broken heart. Ain't that a trip?
Yeah.
He said, so let's see if you got the wheel. Unfortunately, prayerfully, I do.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing is that I don't understand it. It's like they don't want to, you know, put people like us there on the front lines as far as like being the ring announcers and things like that. You know, and
you know what, James?
what is it?
That's a powerful position. That's going on all across the world, you know, and people seeing that, you know, and they're like, and this, I guess, symbolic of what's happening today with this Trump administration. They actually fear us. They know that we're the power for real, and that they just want to try to exercise their privilege that they've had for these 400 years over us. But that's over with now, man. That's over with. And so they running scared. But they didn't want anybody in that position. They just wanted Buffer. They wanted Jimmy Lennon. You know, those are the two cream of the crop, really, guys, for the last, 40 years? 40 years?
40 plus years.
That's crazy. That's a monopoly. You know, so I asked the promoters in the network, I said, well, can you let me announce in February? Oh, my goodness. But yeah, it's about to change. So thank you for having me on, you know, Boxing Source, because certainly we keep you abreast on what's coming up.
Yeah, and the thing that you pointed out there in reference to trying to make that fight between Layla Ali and Clarissa Shields. I mean, that's one of the biggest fights that could be made out there, especially with Clarissa Shields being the GOAT and Layla Ali, being having that history there, being the daughter of the greatest of all time, and.
And that's what we call in the promotion. Go against the flow.
Go against flow.
Right. Greatest of all. Yeah. Go against flow. So we'll see. So we gotta give Layla time to get back in boxing shape. Because she's been gone for a long time.
Yeah.
And just even the playing field and everything, have her at her optimum best. We're looking at 9 months from now.
Yeah, it'd be a good amount of time, and like you were saying, as far as like, what it would take for that to, basically happen. I mean, when they initially had the talks for it, they were like, Layla might have to, get a good little bit of coin in order to make that happen. So as long as they're able to put that money together, then they're like, you know what, hey, let's get it done.
Well, that's what we talked about on the call today. The winner gets 10 mil, and the loser gets 5.
Ooh.
There's really no losers in that fight, is it? But women, they've never made that much money in their life before. They'll never make that much. They'll never make that.
Nowhere close. Like that's, I mean, a 15. Yeah, $15 million purse right there. I mean,
right.
that's crazy.
Yeah. And they deserve it. They do. They do. And just think how much more it's going to bring back, though, with the pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah.
We all going to be, man.
Oh, yeah.
And we all going to be good.
Yeah, the thing that, like how they're having these, these current set of fights arranged right now, as far as like the big events, you see that a few of them have been, delayed a week or a couple of weeks in order to, allow fans to attend these events. So, with this one, there'll be, some good time to where they have more of these, regulations kind of like be scaled down a bit so that they can have the most amount of people in that venue for this fight.
That's exactly right. And the venue of choice for us that we're looking at is the new Raiders Stadium, Legion Stadium.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They tell me as soon as you arrive by plane in Vegas, you can walk right there to the stadium.
Oh yeah.
That's convenient.
Yeah.
So we're looking at that because of course it's a shiny new thing, and of course people come out, to it. So we try to engage in negotiations with the owner, the stadium, to see exactly what it would take to get that fight in there. That's our first preference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing, man. It's like, with that stadium, that would be like a whole lot of people that could, basically get in there. So that would be.
Well, right now it would be 50% capacity.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, still looking at 30,000.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's real nice. But then, of course, you can charge for, premium tickets for ringside on up.
Mm-hmm.
And have some vendors as well to get some concessions. See?
Yep.
And then, of course, on top of that, the pay-per-view buys and sponsorships and foreign rights fees. You're looking at a good revenue coming back, So these promoters that we're talking to, they realize that it makes dollars and it makes sense, and then show it for maybe 59, 49.99, 59.99, something like that, to make it real affordable for people. And then you can get viewership and volume, instead of $99.
Right. So once they have all of this straightened out, then they'll get everything they need in order to make this thing happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll have some tours having them come to different cities, DC being one of them. There's a statue in Lincoln Park on Capitol Hill of Abraham Lincoln, and he has his hand on a slave that he's supposedly freeing, and the man supposedly stands up and has his freedom. Well, it came out in the newspaper that slave actually is the great grandfather of Muhammad Ali. Do you believe that?
Wow. That's
deep. So yeah, we'll definitely get laid with here. We'll go to that park and sort of like a rite of passage thing, So yeah, we got some plans, man. We got some plans. People won't really appreciate what we're gonna do with this thing.
Right. And just one thing I have as a follow up to getting the venue ready and having attendance there. You had a question in from DC Mike. I know that you're familiar with DC Mike.
One of the premier PR to the star, DC Mike.
Yeah. Yep. You said, what are your thoughts about this upcoming fight between Gervonta Tank Davis against Leo Santa Cruz, and it, taking place with fans, since it's going to be in San Antonio, scheduled for San Antonio on October 31st.
Ooh, Halloween, trick or treat. Well, I'll tell you this. Gervonta Davis got some tricks up his sleeve. It's not going to be a good treat for Santa Cruz. Gervonta is gone back to the roots, meaning he's going back to Vegas, training under Mayweather. He's in the best shape of his life. He's not going to come in overweight. He's focused now. He realized he has a legacy to build. And he got to get by the Leo Santa Cruz of life so he can meet up with the Gary Russell Jr.'s and Devin Haney's, and if you want to go up, to meet up with a Terrence Crawford, whoever, but it's all right there for him. I've been announcing his fights when he was an amateur. I saw it then, teenager, beating men. I said, oh, he's got a Mike Tyson mentality, because that's what Mike Tyson used to do as a teenager. He beat men and Tank got that punching power, and he hasn't lost it. So I think styles, being what they are, styles make fights. Santa Cruz style is tailor-made for Tank. You won't have to go looking for him.
Right.
And so, Santa Cruz throws a lot of punches, but he's going to be right there to receive some. And, Tank has the highest knockout ratio in boxing right now. So I think he's going to catch up to him and stop him.
Yeah, I think it's like, all but one fight, ended in a stoppage for Gervonta Tank Davis. And, like you're saying, I mean, he's, really locked in for this particular fight because, after, well, actually, I said like before his fight with Yuriorkis Gamboa, like there were like inklings that the crew, behind Mayweather, you had Leonard Ellaby, there's from the DMV area and everything like that. Like they were like saying that, okay, this is going to be the next guy. Like the guy that's going to be who they push as the star after Mayweather, so to speak. So once they kind of like did that, and then when they were talking about the whole thing with Yuriorkis Gamboa before that fight even took place, they were saying, hey, okay, his next fight is going to be on pay-per-view. And with them doing that, that's like, okay, they're putting in all the money and they're putting in their chips behind Gervonta Tank Davis to be the guy. So this is, his first fight on pay-per-view. And then, later on down the line, like you said, you have those fights at lightweight, a lot of fights at lightweight, potential fight against, Mr. Gary Russell Jr. also out there. So I mean, they're building him to be that, because it's not like he can, slack off like he was doing, So
young guy,
yeah,
I've been knowing him since he was a teenager, and it's something when you come from the hood from nothing, really, and then get all this money quickly, and get into another lifestyle now. Then the women coming around, of course. So he went through a whole lot of baby mama drama type stuff, and he's learned from it as I've seen it. And he realized now that, he has to be aware and conscious at all times, because he's a target. He's a target, not in the ring, outside the ring. It's like Mike Tyson was a target.
Yep.
People provoke Mike to get money from him. So, Tank has put his hands on a couple of people and paid the price out in the street.
Yeah.
So he's learned from his mistakes now, and he's maturing, and I see the difference. So I just hope he can continue that, so that he can realize the greatness that he has in store for himself.
Yep, true that. I'm going to see if I could check in with someone that's on here from the 240 area code of V, or they have a question here for you, Discombobulating Jones. 240, you're on live with us on the Boxing Source radio show. 240, you in here with us? Looks like they may have, looks like they may have checked out. But, back on the conversation here, about the DC boxing scene. I mean, we're talking about the thing here with Tank Davis. But the week before that, we'll have another fighter from the Baltimore area on, and that's the Iceman, Malik Hawkins. And, had him on as a guest on the show. And, he was originally scheduled to, have his fight yesterday. But, they had to push their card back a couple of weeks because of the main event. But, now he's going to be on there October 24th, against Subriel Matias. And that's going to be a, really interesting fight there for, both of those guys,
Yes, they will. I saw Matias at the MGM at National Harbor.
Right.
And of course, ended up in a fatality for his opponent. He's no joke. He's nothing to be played with. Styles again being what they are. I would hope that Malik Hawkins would use a strategy to just outbox him and not engage in a warfare type fight with him, because that's what dude wants. He's strong, very strong.
Yeah.
And he likes to receive punches so he can be in punching range to deliver something. So I'm just hoping that Malik Hawkins will come up with a game plan to box at range and get a decision that's not a knockout. It won't be good for him to fight inside in this fight, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, he had, a good close fight in his previous matchup, when he, had his fight against Darwin Price. But that one, he kind of was, in close quarters there, but he did get a TKO victory in that particular matchup. But, here against Subriel Matias, even though Matias did have, a decision loss in his last fight, February 22nd, he's still a dangerous guy. Someone got to, watch out for, 15 wins and 15 knockouts. So you always got to, be wary of someone with that type of, background there in the boxing scene,
Punch for the country, don't hook for the hooker.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like you said, we have
But one thing I wanted to say, Bill, is that people don't realize, and I want to say it on your podcast, and, just inform them that this DMV area has had more world champions, more world-class contenders than any jurisdiction in the last 20 years. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, this was the heyday for boxing in this area. We had more world champions in one area than any other city in history. William Choppy Jr., world champ. Keith Holmes, Sharmba Mitchell, Mark Too Sharp Johnson, had a female, Isra Guerrero, Riddick Bowe was here.
Yep.
Andrew Maynard was here. The contenders, Daryl Coley, Daryl Tyson, Reggie Green, man, just so many, Andrew, so many more. We had TV here every other month. ESPN or the old USA Tuesday Night Fights, they were coming every other month. We had it on lockdown. What I tried to do is form a consortium or a collaboration between the local promoters to put on fight cards so that we could have a monopoly and get fight cards on TV every month. But unfortunately, the promoters wanted to be, independent of each other instead of sharing in that pie. And then once the fighters started losing, that was it. We should have had the fight at MCI Center between Keith Holmes and William Choppy. That's a natural. It's like Simon Brown against Maurice Blocker. Those are the fights you have to make. They only come along once in a lifetime. Two local boys. So again, fast forwarding, we had to make Mr. Gary Russell and Javante Tank. It was sell out.
Yep.
It was sell out here, man.
Yeah,
Stop playing. I just wish I had the money to put stuff out there. These are natural fight cards to me. Man.
Yep, that would easily be a sellout. Easily be a sellout.
Put on the locals on the undercard. You have to fly people in. We got enough locals here that could fill a card, man.
Yep.
Stop playing. I don't get it. We just don't work together like other ethnicities. I hate to say it, but we don't. And we should.
Mm-hmm.
We should. It would be so easy. It would be so easy. So anyway, that's my take on it. So I'm just surrounding myself with like-minded and like-spirited brothers and sisters. We can work together, not harder, but smarter.
Yep, I feel you. I mean, we had those, these fight cards that, like you said, in DC, and in our previous conversation, we go over the venues that have been holding these fights, like Howard Theater or DC Armory or the convention center. I mean, you had the convention center for that Americon, Mont Peterson. Yep.
That was put on by De La Hoya. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was the announcer for the undercard. My mentor, Michael Buffer, was the Ray Rumble guy. They brought in for televised portion of it. So I sold personally, it's going to blow your mind. I sold $33,000 worth of tickets myself at only 15%, thinking that was going to impress De La Hoya, that they would bring me on board. But now Hopkins said he would. That's never happened, but he said he would. So I thought that was going to impress them. It was an easy sale for me, too, because I know so many people that wanted to go to fight. So why would you want to go through Ticketmaster and pay, extra fees, and taxes rather than buying it through me directly? So that's what they did. People bought tickets through me directly. So, man, I piled that money up in front of De La Hoya and them, and their eyes got big, and I'm like, okay, they finally free. My word. I never announced another bout for them again.
Oh man, see,
and that's something.
Man, I knew Golden Boy was full of it, man. I had never, I had never really been a fan of Golden Boy, but for me, I'm gonna tell it like this, right? Like for my history of like covering the sport and looking at Golden Boy promotions and you know up into the okay, you had the point where they basically had everybody, was, Oscar de la Hoya, there's the face and whatnot. Um, and they had Richard Schaefer. And Richard Schaefer was, kind of like responsible for the matchmaking and all of that. But Richard Schaefer like knew the game, you know, and the thing about it was like up until that point, like what is it, 2013 or something like that. I think it was now 2013 or 2014 when he had that split, and most of those fighters were out of Golden Boy, and then you had the whole thing with the PBC and spreading them out with other promoters, right? So after that, you had Golden Boy. And for me, Golden Boy kind of leaned towards being favorite, having favoritism towards Mexican fighters or, like fighters that are like from, the countries in like Central and South America. But like the black fighters, they really didn't give them that much love at all, and to me, it still happens up to this current point. And, I see somebody that's, like a local guy. And up until last year, Lamont Roach really didn't have those type of opportunities there until he, was able to get the mandatory position to fight for the WBO, super featherweight title against Jamel Herring. But other than that, I really don't see any other black fighters that are on Golden Boy Promotions, man. And they had the
that's right. Like it is, speak volume. And it's really strange because you got Bernard Hopkins right there with him.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Yeah.
I really don't get that.
But
I just left it alone, man.
Yeah.
I don't waste time anymore.
I feel
it's toxic situation in my mind, with spirit. I move on, man. Because I know my worth. And I'm bringing you money.
Yeah.
You don't want it only because of our pigmentation. Well, God bless.
Yeah. Y'all have a nice day. I'll catch y'all later. You know what I'm saying?
Get it. Money ain't good at nothing. Wow.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, then that's something. Okay. And then they don't have to.
Right.
And other ones can't.
Yeah, they can't.
But I do. So again, it just says that we have to be, twice as good, to get half as much.
Right. Yep. That's what it is. Twice as good, only to get half as much. So, you have those type of cards, but on the flip, you still have those local cards here in the DC area. And, like I was recalling back to 2 years ago, Bowie State University, September 2018, man. Kind of like went through the card, man. You had Machine Kaysen, you had Tyreek Irby on there, you had Tiara Brown on there, and that was he was around there, man, around that time. But like who else was on this card? Because I wanted to pull up that whole card.
Greg Outlaw.
Yeah, Greg Outlaw was on there. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's Yeah. Yep.
But we never went back for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, I didn't see.
Kind of split.
Yeah, that might have been it. Yeah, it might have been it. But that was a good extensive card there, and the DC area like really came out for that particular fight card, man. I think, oh man,
came out. They had an affordable presence for students. That was the bottom line.
Yeah.
Giving back to the university like they did. So I think we can recreate that, really.
Yep.
So I'll be talking to certain promoters in the area. We can go back over there when some similar to normalcy returns for boxing.
Yep. Like, do something like that in Bowie State. And I know they did it in, like Howard Theater, but, I'd like to see it in, Bird Gymnasium. See if they can do something at Bird Gymnasium as well, man, because, that would be good. They'd be able to do that, have cards on there.
Well, we had bouts there before, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like I know that like some of the ones
years ago.
Yeah, that was a good while back.
Matter of fact, Hector Camacho Jr. was supposed to be the headliner on it against DeMarcus Chop Corley. And Camacho Jr. got here to DC and let's just say he said he had an injury. And that about didn't happen.
Yeah.
The truth is, he was overweight. I mean, that's what he had been doing for years.
Yeah.
And
that's always
he's still campaigning. He's not just still trying to campaign. So, I don't know.
Yeah, there's always been his problem. There is the whole thing with the weight issue and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's lack of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
No, you can't walk around at 180. Come on, man.
Yeah.
47 to 54 at the most. Really, without the more weight.
Yep.
And we'll see what he weighs in with his upcoming fight.
Yeah. And you have like this type of stuff where you have these guys coming back, or you have legends out there fighting. We have November 28th, Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones. A few weeks ago, we actually had Julio Cesar Chavez in an exhibition fight where his son, they had an exhibition fight and they were in there, man, and it was like with Little Chavez, I call him Little Chavez, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. On the main event, and Chavez Jr. ended up stopping the fight himself, man, for a little cut above his eye. Yep. So yeah, that was Chavez Jr. being Chavez Jr. But yeah, you have like these legends in there and stuff like that. And I know that like what was it, man? It's been about 7 months, but I know that Riddick Bowe, still has that animosity towards Lennox Lewis. So he's still like, hey man, I want to get it on with Lennox Lewis.
He had many chances.
Well,
most people don't know that Lennox Lewis stopped Riddick Bowe from the gold medal in the Olympics.
Oh, well, hey, listen, that particular fight, that was controversial there, because like I've seen that Olympic thing many times. Like Bowe in that first round, he was getting to Lewis, right? And then the second round happened, and then Lewis smothered Bowe once, and then the ref stepped in and it gave Bowe a standing 8 count. And then Lewis did the same thing again and smothered him. And then the referee ended up stopping the fight. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, but now, two things. First, Lennox didn't complain. He got hit with a legit right hand, and it turned him sideways like he was about to quit. And when the referee stepped in there and called it off, he didn't complain now. So I think he was legitimately hurt. And he might have just, said, okay, let's call it a day. I get the silver. Now, when they turned pro, they had ample opportunity to rematch this thing. And if you remember, Rock Newman, Riddick Bowe's manager, had Riddick Bowe throw the belts in a trash can and told Lennox Lewis to go fetch it. Do you remember that?
Hey, to this day, I've been chasing Rock Newman to talk about that whole situation, and he'll never talk about it. Yeah.
He doesn't even want to talk boxing anymore. So
yeah,
I think if you exercise futility, so just let it go. But they should have met up as pros.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, when Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson were thinking about a venue to fight in, the MCI Center at the time was considered the number one venue for them. And I had told the DC Boxing Commission, Chairman Dr. Al McKnight, may rest in peace, I said, hey man, don't have Rock Newman as the face of this thing for the press conference. He said, why not? And I told him the story how Rock Newman had really both throw the belts in the trash can and tell Lennox to fetch it. He said, that's that's showmanship. I said, yeah, but that was so disrespectful. Lennox Lewis ain't gonna forget that, man. And so they didn't take me at my word. And sure enough, when Lennox Lewis found out about it, that Rock Newman would have been behind, the local promotion to bring Tyson loose to NCI Center, he said, hell to the no. And they took the fight down in Memphis. And that's what happened. And the commissioner at the time, the chairman at the time, came back to me and apologized. I got to listen to you from now on. I said, yeah, you do.
Yeah, because man, basically you had that thing where the site fees or whatever it is, they were definitely going to make that money back tenfold if they hosted the fight.
Big time. The government wanted that fight here.
Yeah,
they wanted it bad.
Yep.
Yeah. But Eagles being what they are, man. In boxing in particular, you better take notice. Things will go south very quickly. This is a macho sport. It's not a team sport. It's one-on-one.
Yep.
People get into their feelings about things. You understand?
Yeah. People don't forget.
Back to what you said earlier. No, they don't. You were talking about Roy Jones and Mike Tyson. I really don't want to see that to happen, even though they call it an exhibition, because both those guys got strong egos. And, if Roy starts flurrying and doing his showmanship bit and tagging Tyson won't forget it's just an exhibition. Trust me, he still got that power.
Yeah.
And after he said, Roy, I'm sorry, Roy. I didn't mean to knock you out like that,
Listen. I know it's an exhibition, man, but everybody got to play until they get hit. And if you're gonna hit me, I'm definitely gonna hit back, man. And I can't control myself once I get hit. Yeah, man. And the funny thing about it too was like Roy himself said, hey, I know it's an exhibition, but I can't trust Mike to hold back in this particular fight. So yeah, it's crazy, 4 times, man.
Each one was increasingly worse.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on the temple.
Yep.
It's bad, man. Your temple?
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the thing there with that Tarverse 2 fight, got in his excuses tonight, Roy. And then he got, we got clipped on that. And I went to
Glenn Johnson.
Oh goodness, boy. Yo, I saw that Glenn Johnson one. I thought he was done out. How what was it, that Baranchik fight that was the other weekend? I thought it was done like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
And then overseas, that was scored a couple times by cruiserweight.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I was like after that.
One of the greats of all time.
Yep. Yeah.
It might just be the ego, either word or crowd. I don't know.
Yeah, it was just that, man. I think he was just, too hungry for all that attention, and it just got to the point where, it just stretched out. So he didn't really like retire professionally until last year. Like he had his last fight over in Pensacola, and then after that, he was like kind of done with it. But he was doing it. He was still doing his thing as far as like a trainer too, or chief second. So I didn't see like how he couldn't still be that with the likes of he was there with Jean Pascal. He had him with Isaac Chalemba as well. A few other people. Yeah. So I was like, how could you not like keep teaching these other fighters? But you still wanted to be in the ring. I'm like, man, I would have just just said, hey, let me get my get some more money by being a trainer. And you had up until HBO shut down, you had that good job at HBO too.
True. He's a great color commentator.
Yeah.
I love hearing him. He sees things. But he's been there. He was telling who was it? Lantley and Max Kellerman.
Mm-hmm.
What the deal was. They would say something, say, no, that's not right.
Yeah, he would basically call them out on them joints.
Yeah, you guys are Allen. I thought. Yeah, he and Andre Ward, I really appreciate their color commentary.
Yeah. Yeah, Andre Ward is definitely a good one. That they have out there now with ESPN. So that's definitely good right there. So.
But we have some other bouts coming up. They talk about how about Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, we're most definitely talking about that. That's next week. That's Saturday.
Ooh.
That's Saturday on the ESPN.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. I'm gonna go with Lomachenko on that. I think that he just has that ring generalship that he can adapt to styles.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, he almost stopped Mr. Gary Russell. He knows every trick in the trade. Has probably the most extensive amateur career we've ever seen, 396-1.
Mm-hmm.
And calls himself the Matrix. He adjusts the style, makes people quit, as we've seen. He's not going to make Teofimo quit, but I think he's going to frustrate him to the point that if he doesn't stop him, he's going to get that unanimous decision. I don't think Teofimo was ready for it yet.
Ooh.
It's a payday for him, but just don't see it. He's going to rely on power, and when he can't catch up to him, I think he's going to be frustrated.
That's very.
That's my humble opinion.
Got you there, and I'll give my thoughts on that here real quick. That I got to add on from the 205 area code. You're on here with Henry Discombobulating Jones. What's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, that much I heard from me and say, I agree with him. I question if Teofimo Lopez use his jab and will rely entirely on power. And in that case, it will happen exactly like me and said, Lomachenko was frustrated. Now, if he does shoot a jab, it may be a different story. Maybe a more competitive fight, Teofimo may have opportunities to touch Lomachenko. But if he don't shoot his jab and everything else, and not even to try to rely on power, just set up shots that coming out and he throw them. If he doesn't do that, and everybody thinks it's going to be a good fight, it's going to be totally mistaken. So I just really hope he jabs. I hope he sticks to the jab and just don't try to go out there and think he fights a guy that's like 0 and 100. He got a jab. That's the only way he's going to win this fight.
Well taken. You ever heard of the term deer in the headlights look.
Exactly.
Yeah, this might be a too big of a moment for Teofimo. You know, never been there before. I've seen it many times as fighters. Matter of fact, we had Riddick Bowe against Jesse Ferguson at RSK. Roy Jones fought Bernard Hopkins in the co-feature. And I saw Jesse Ferguson come into the ring, you know, petrified. I'm like, oh, wow, he's never been on that big stage before. You know, I saw it previous to that with Michael Spence against Mike Tyson, if you remember. It looked like he was a lamb being led to slaughter. So sometimes guys, they don't picture themselves, you know, in the bright spotlight like that and can't perform. I don't know if Teofimo, you know, he'll succumb to the bright spotlights like that, but certainly it's the biggest moment in his life. I don't think it's the biggest moment of Lomachenko's. I don't. I think he got bigger fish to fry. And he's so confident, if you recall, he gave $1 million of his own money to make this fight happen. Remember that? That tells me a lot. That tells me a lot. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to pay you, and I'm going to beat you too.
I'm sorry to say this, but I believe. I believe, man. I believe in the takeover. And I'll put it to you this way. Like with Teofimo, he had his little hiccup over in the MGM National Harbor against was it Nakatani, right? Looked terrible. And then he goes up against Richard Comey for that IBF title. And he, clocks Comey and takes him out. And he feels like Lomachenko is, just taking him for granted. He's like, Teofimo Lopez, who is that guy? He's just another opponent or something like that, right? So he's like, you know what? I'm going to make sure that he knows who I am. And for me, with Lomachenko, like he's the Matrix and, he's this and he's that. But I haven't really felt like he's been as good at lightweight that he was at super featherweight. I felt like his movement was a lot more fluid at super featherweight than it was at lightweight. And, we had this fight there against Jorge Linares. He was able to break down Jorge Linares after, getting caught, timed, and being knocked down. And he had, his fight with, of course, he had the $1 million Crawler fight where he basically washed Crawler. But then he, had his, fight against, before the Crawler fight, he had the fight against Jose Pedraza. And for me, I thought he was going to be able to take out Jose Pedraza or break him down and take him out. Not like knock him out, in a fantastic fashion like Tech did, but at least be able to break down Pedraza and take him out. But he wasn't able to do that. And then, we had his fight there with Luke Campbell. And, Luke Campbell has, a good amount of skill, Olympic gold medalist and all that type of stuff, right? But he was able to get that decision win in there. And I just feel like with Teofimo Lopez is like, the next guys coming up there in the lightweight and super lightweight divisions that are young, 21, 22, 23 years old, have the height, have the reach, and the speed and the size that would really give Lomachenko problems. And I feel like the first big punch that Lomachenko feels from Teofimo Lopez, that's going to be a definite statement there. And I think he's going to eventually get the win. And I'm going for the stoppage, man. I'm going for the stoppage. I'm going to do it.
But we got legalized bet in DC now. So.
Hey, they got it over in They got it over there at the Verizon Center. How long ago was that? Oh my God. Oh no.
So the reason why, in my opinion, Lamar and Pedraza did so well while it lasted and/or while they were doing well is because Lopez, what he did to, let's say, like Mitchell Walter and Riggendow, like when he was stepping and stuff, they were kind of flat-footed, and he would pretty much get out their purview, and he would continue like either stepping over, hitting him, pack, step over, pack. And so what Linares and what's the other guy?
Pedraza,
what they were doing is that when he stepped over, they would step with him to where they would keep that same angle to where he couldn't step over and land his little soft shot and step over again and land his big shot. And so I'm not positive and or have not seen what's his name be that educated to step with a guy and to change the keep the angle the same when Lomachenko stepped. I just don't think his feet are that sophisticated to keep him in the same angle to make sure that Lomachenko can't get out of his purview and then throw either the soft shot and get out of that purview and throw the hard shot.
right?
I don't think when they are in those tight moments that he'll be able to do that. At least I haven't seen him do it. I can't say he won't be able to do it, but I haven't seen him. What y'all think about that?
So you got it to where you feel like Teofimo will end up resetting his pursuit for the majority of the fight, and that the foot movement, the foot movement and the timing of Lomachenko will basically be the key for him getting the victory.
Yeah, he's a big shot. What's made bad, but like a hook, you can see like a wide hook. And if you don't set it up with like the front A to B shot, and I just don't think the wide hook, like one of them might land, but I don't think it's gonna land consistently.
Gotcha. I wanted to add in a caller here from the 267 area code. You're on the Boxing Source radio show with Henry Discombobulating Jones. What's going on? Yo, what's happening? All right, he'll be back on here in a bit. Y'all, had him on here like I guess about like 5 minutes or so. But I mean, for me, like I'm looking at both, Teofimo and Lomachenko, man, and it seems like a few people are like trying to write off Lomachenko, talking about age and everything like that. And he's like, man, I'm only like 32 years old or something like that. Like, it's not like I've, been in the game like for 20 years or something like that, So he feels like he has a good amount of time. Yeah.
That's right.
He feels like he has a good amount of time as a professional. And here it looks like he wants to, go in there and kind of like show that, even though it looks like he's been in the game a long time, he really hasn't. But with Teofimo's like saying like, hey, I'm ready. I've been, looking forward to a moment like this here for my professional career. And, for me, I kind of like feel like that's going to be something where he feels like this is his, coming out party or something like that, So that's what I, kind of like feel at it for that. Let's see, like
I still say too much too soon, and I'm gonna stick with that. My money gonna say that too.
All right,
too much too soon.
I was looking at the odds, man. I mean, Teofimo, I might think about making it. I gotta make that trip about Tuesday or Friday or something because them odds looking real nice for Teofimo. Them payouts looking real nice. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta see like how that's gonna. Hey, he could, put on a jersey and do a backflip or whatever, man. I mean, I'm, definitely ready for that there, man. So that's what's, going down with that. So, they also had like a couple of other fights that are on the card. Oh, that Spence Garcia thing, man. Spence out there, he, released his photo when he was in the hospital and a bunch of lacerations on his face from that car crash, man. And
lost some teeth.
Yeah, and lost teeth and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna have something else too, right? So I knew it was him. Like on the thing for that Tank Davis Yuriorkis Gamboa fight, right? I saw like someone that was like sitting on the like roundabout row, like where the press area was. And Mike was there. Mike was there with me, and he was sitting there, and he wasn't really moving. And I'm telling you, he definitely looked to me like it was Errol Spence. So I had to like ease over there and go through real quick. And then there was like someone standing there next to him. And I was like, man, that's Errol Spence. But I didn't really want to, go out and flat out say that it was. And then I like asked around and they were like, no, but I'm like, man, that's Errol Spence. I was like, no, that was Errol Spence. And he looked like, at that time, he looked like he could like hardly walk around, like he was, having issues like, getting up and that type of thing. But I was like, man, he hadn't gone from that particular point until now. And, it kind of like looks like, he's going to be back at it,
Right.
Shout out to, like I'm on the Simulcast on YouTube. Shout out to Intangible Boxing News for joining in and watching through YouTube there. But yeah, the thing with Errol Spence and Danny Garcia, I mean, like Danny's gonna be coming out and be definitely ready for this particular fight because he's had a good share of big fights over the course of his pro career, particularly, his resume at 140 pounds. He had that catchweight fight against Lamont Peterson at 143 pounds, going up to 147, winning the world title. Having a unification bout against Keith Thurman, came up short. They was able to get back to, fighting for the vacant WBC title against Sean Porter, came up short there. But, he's, still there. It's like me, he's like one of the top, 5-6 welterweights out there. So it's going to be another, I say it's going to be another good fight there for Errol Spence. But if it's the Errol Spence that, people know, then I just think his size is going to be too much.
I think it will be a good fight. The X factor, as I had said before on another podcast, is that we don't know what Errol Spence is going to show up from this car accident. They put out photos of him training, but we haven't seen footage of him sparring, hit, and his mouth in particular, because he had that surgery. So, I don't know. You said earlier, anybody got a plan until he gets hit in the mouth, like Mike Tyson said.
Yep.
So, I don't know if it's going to be gunshot or not. If I had Errol Spence, in my opinion, as the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world prior to the accident. But his thing, he was cream of the crop. I didn't see anybody beat him. I just did. He had it all. Now I'm not so sure. So this is Danny Garcia's golden moment. Really, he could become very relevant again.
Right.
So it's intriguing. So definitely be tuned in, but I just don't know which way to go on this.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a lot on the line there for Danny Garcia, to me. I mean, because right now with the, welterweight division and Errol Spence having the, unified belts, there's, not really much of status as far as like what's going to happen with the WBA title with Manny Pacquiao. And of course, you have Terrence Crawford, who's slated to face Kell Brook on November 14th. So if Danny Garcia comes up short here, I don't know when it'll be for his next opportunity. It might be, a year and a half or a couple of years before he gets, that next shot for a world title there at 147 pounds. Want to see if I could check back with 267 if he's, there with the 267. You back? Yeah, what's going on?
Oh man, I'm out here in the streets, man. All right, so first, I don't think these dudes understand what they're witnessing. This takeover shit is very real, right? He's going to stop Loma, and it's not going to be a regular stoppage. It might be borderline horrific.
How you think the stoppage will happen?
I think he's going to buzz him with a shot. It's going to be a short right, and then he's going to explode on him when Lopez hurt, and refs going to stop it. Or as Lomachenko is, he's starting to get caught coming out of the back door. He has a little where he throws flurries, and then he does a quick angle change and throws that, straight left across his body, but onto an angle where you can't really throw anything that you have to turn up in order to throw. Yeah. But if you notice, Linares and Luke Campbell is trying to fall so really on the point. But people are starting to slow down a little bit when people are starting to catch him coming out of the back door. So, to me, he doesn't transition that well from offense to defense. Like, most of his pivoting and changing is more offensive rather than defensive. And I think dealing with a very explosive, bigger puncher, if Pio adopts the philosophy of a Toledo, where he doesn't care about getting embarrassed for the first couple rounds and just constantly pressure him, beat him up on the hips, the shoulders, his arms. I think that Pio's going to stop him probably like round 7, round 8.
So they're going to be responsible for They was definitely with him and were able to land the shot once he was leaving out the pocket after he changed that angle. The thing that I'm not sure though is I'm not sure if what's the name had that ability to move his feet like that. Still, I don't think his feet that educated to move with him while he changed that angle. And I don't think he's gonna jab in first. I'm not sure if he'll jab, but I'm not sure I've ever seen him do that. And maybe it's because he hasn't been fighting anybody who moves like that, but I just have never really seen him do that. And I think his feet are more flat than they are slight of foot, and he's not like just throwing shots.
Hold on. Yeah, let me see. Brother Jamil, you got something to respond to that?
I didn't really check this template of it. I don't know. It's unconverted. Can you repeat the last part, sir?
I was just saying that I'm not sure if you're able to do those things that Linares and Bradley be able to move in with Loma Chico when he tries to turn that angle and land that shot. And so with that, I don't think he'll be able to land that shot. And he's coming out, and I don't think he'll be able to with it. I think his feet will be flat. And then what's the name of the move out of the circle? And then he'll just be there like, where will he at? It's amazing. Where do he go?
Oh, and that last part, because I think, yeah, I think, like Jamil said, he was like out on the street. So I don't think we got that last part there, what you were talking about.
I'm just saying, I don't think he can heal and move just like they did to be able to land a shot and Loma Chico. I think he'll be more flat-footed and be more like a, I don't know, somebody who's flat-footed when somebody moves and then they can't throw a shot. Sort of like Danny Garcia makes, like Danny Garcia can time you, but he's timing you from like flex. And that's how I think that, I'm saying all these names, I'm forgetting young kids. That's how I think he'll be.
Gotcha.
I feel like you're underestimating. I feel like you're underestimating his speed. His feet are a lot faster, and he's faster again. Like he's really explosive for a puncher. Like, and I think he has the feet to keep up with him. Now, the educated feet, will he know what to do at what moment? We're going to have to see because, he only got 15 fights.
And that's what I'm saying. I think he has the ability. But does he have the know-how of when to use that skill and ability? To step to him like those others who were on skill now, to get them in position to land that shot.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's something about, I think the key thing there would be the footwork. And Discombobulating Jones, what you got to say on it?
I think that both gentlemen have valid points. And again, styles make fights. So it's going to come down to who can insert their will on the other to take advantage of opportunities that present themselves. I still think that Lomachenko has forgotten more than Teofimo even knows. It's just, you got, it's something about experience, man. And I think this is a golden moment, opportunity for Teofimo for the takeover and all that. But as I've seen it, when he relies on his power and it doesn't come through, guys don't fall, he gets frustrated and he gets hit. I saw one fight, man, it was like he was a loser, but he won the fight. So I think Lomachenko is just going to stay within his game plan and just pepper him, counter shots all night, turn him, and if he doesn't stop him, it's going to be unanimous. I stick it to it.
Gotcha. Got another caller in here from the 202 area code. What's going on? You're on the Boxing Source Radio Show with Discombobulating Jones.
What's up, Boxing Source? What's up, Mr. Discombobulating Jones? This is Myron Magnus, the Boxing Logics United. How y'all doing?
I know you, brother. How you feeling, man?
Yes, sir. What's up, brother Myron?
What's up? Good to see Mr. Jones on the blog talk. That's what love, baby.
Yes. Right. Shout out to Myron Magnus for being the main man to get Discombobulating Jones on the show, man. Thanks for the link, man.
Yeah. Oh, no problem. And we gotta stick together. And this talk is good deep DMV boxing talk. Yo, so my take. Well, first y'all brought up something about can I say something about Spence? Ask a question about Spence. I think Spence is ready. I don't think this is a tall task for Spence to be taken. Not fresh from the wreckage, but the first fight from the accident, car accident and everything. I think it's really, really dangerous. And I hope all ends well for that. But I think I picked Danny to drop him. I'm not saying Danny's going to knock him out, but I think Spence might, Spence might get rocked in that fight real good. Might have to take, a good standing 8 count or something. And I don't think, like I said before, I don't think Spence is a mover like Showtime Sean Porter and
Thurman.
boy Keith Thurman.
He's not.
That gives that much, difficulty to Danny and move him around, and bounce. Spence was not that guy. Spence would like to go ahead and just like really kind of times he like to knuckle up. He stays in front of you most of the time.
Yeah.
And that's going to make it easier for Danny Garcia to catch him with that no left hook. And I think he's going to catch him with it. I don't know now. Spence is a very strong, a full welterweight. He can move up to 154. And then Garcia, of course, blew up into welterweight. He came from 140.
Yeah.
But still, I think he did have a good punch with it. Now, he wasn't able to drop Thurman with it. I don't think he was able to land really flush on Thurman. He wasn't able to land it very flush on Porter. But I think he can land that flush on Spence because he likes to get in there more. Now, Porter does like to get in there too, but he's also has such a low center of gravity that he's low underneath you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's smothering you guys. You can't really, he doesn't make, nobody looks good against Sean Porter.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Sean Porter make every fighter, it's like the worst night for any fighter, even the best.
Right.
Because he's willing to get there and get dirty.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Spence is crippled, but not quite like that. And I think Spence is going to get hit a couple of times. We'll see if there are any serious effects. We will see in this fight if there's any serious effects that could perhaps be wrestling with them since the accident. And what y'all think about that?
That's exactly what we were talking about on your podcast. That's the X factor with Spence. We don't know what version we're going to get.
Right.
We don't know how he's going to react to it. We don't know if Danny's going to take advantage of this opportunity. Because I think the longer the fight goes, it's going to go in Spence's favor. Because the element of surprise right now, if he jumps on him, tries to hurt him, hey, maybe Spence starts second guessing. Like, oh, man,
right.
We have not seen footage of him sparring. We've seen photos of him training.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sparring's a whole different thing. And he hasn't been hit since his last fight with Porter. So if I'm Danny, man, I'm going full, but I'm going balls to the wall. I'm sorry. Ain't no sense me going 12 rounds and get hurt, get stopped. Stop me early, or I'm going to stop you early. We had a guy named Jerry Ballard, Don King heavyweight. Don King had signed him. He unfortunately got killed, on the streets because he refused to move from 5th and Kennedy Street Northwest, if you know that area back in the day.
Cool.
He said, right. He said one night, we either get or get dropped.
Yep. Yep, that's it.
Get or get dropped. Let's do this thing early. Hagler Hearns type. That's right. So if I'm Danny, I'm going for it early. If I get stopped, so what? So what? They still gonna bring him back against somebody. Maybe Crawford.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. And you're right. If you does, you made a good point. I'm gonna cut you off, but if Danny does do the jump on him early, because the Spence, it made a good point. Because the Spence does, if he takes a few good punches and realizes, okay, I'm back. I can do this fully. Then his confidence will grow earlier. So Danny does need to, pop him with one really good early. Maybe make that happen. But we'll see how that goes from there. You're right.
Yeah. Because
I think that whether Spence was at full health or not, I think that, as my man said, first guys started talking that left hook, the way that Spence kind of stayed in the pocket and don't really move his head, that left hook was gonna hit him whether he was full thrust or not. So if he's not full thrust and he still keep his head there, he's still gonna get hit with that left hook. Now I feel that if he fought the fight like he fought the other Garcia, then that will help him a lot more to not get hit with those aerial punches. Meaning like more boxing, more composed. I think if he fought like that, then I think we would unbox Danny Garcia and probably wouldn't get. I mean, to get his head movement ain't necessarily there per se, but like if he boxing like he did the other Garcia, I think that coming into this fight will probably be the best strategy as opposed to like you hit with some air and trying to bum rush him or something like that. What y'all think about that?
Right. I hear you. He needs to come and box. Not trying to slug right away. Absolutely.
And then once you see whatever he sees, then maybe he can feel the same like y'all say he's there, and then run through him. Maybe then. But yeah, at first, just take it easy. Another day at the office. Don't get caught in that bed.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, it's just the thing, like you said, the unknown is Errol Spence. And if he is like, Errol Spence that usually walks down his opponents, then yeah, he's going to be definitely open to, the shots that Danny Garcia could throw. I think that, with Spence, he kind of like he takes time in order to adjust to his opponent. That's why, like with boxers, like with the Kell Brook fight or, a couple other fights, it took him some time before he was able to adjust and then just eventually break down his opponent and, either stops him or whatever it is. But with like, Sean Porter, like you said, Sean Porter is a tough fight for anybody. And in that particular fight against Errol Spence, he kind of like had a good mix of boxing and roughhousing and things like that. So it was kind of difficult for Errol Spence to time Sean Porter until the tail end of the fight, So, yeah, I kind of feel like, Danny Garcia has to, go at it there within those first couple of rounds because if he doesn't and, it doesn't, go in his favor, then I just feel like he'll eventually get broken down and it'll be, it might not be good for him there in those later rounds.
Yeah. Gary fight still on or not?
Gary, man, I gotta catch up with Gary Jr. because I see him fighting Javier Fortuna, but I gotta see if it's what date that would be. Because I look at the like the PBC fight schedule, and they have I know that they said that they're gonna have Luis Ortiz on at November 7th, so he might end up fighting on that December 26th thing that's slated out there or reserved there for Fox. So I want to see if he could get that. If we could get that in there to have that fight on December 26th against Javier Fortuna. But, it's a good while before, anything is official. But I'll have to catch up with them within this week or the next couple of weeks.
I was asking about Wilder and Fury.
Oh, with that one. Oh man, there's.
Yeah, see, I heard they attempted that they working together.
That's what I heard.
It seems like there's so many things that are coming out in reference to this particular fight, right? Like, like Wilder is in surgery, he hasn't been in camp, or Fury isn't necessarily saying that the fight's happening and whatnot. Like, I feel like I don't see it happening this year because you see how these other fights have been pushed back a couple of weeks because they want to have spectators in those fights. With Wilder and Fury, the second fight had a live gate of 16 and a half to 17, million dollars. They don't want to give that up. That's like their purses, the combined purses for those two fighters are a lot, a lot. So they got to find a way to make that money, and it can't be from just pay-per-view, especially if all of the contract for both parties is still the same, where you have Fox and you have ESPN being involved with it. So if you have earlier this week, you have Bob Arum talking about, well, you're gonna have this great fight between Vasily Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez, and it's gonna be on ESPN. And not only that, we're going to have Miguel Berchelt defending his title against Oscar Valdez in December, and that is also going to be on ESPN. And we have Terrence Crawford going up against Kell Brook, and it'll be November 14th on ESPN. It's going to be great. You don't have to pay 5 cents to go ahead and watch these fights because we're not going to put them on pay-per-view. I mean, that's basically what Bob Arum is talking about, And the thing with the ESPN deal with Top Rank, that is really good. That's kind of like how they're handling their boxing from this point to the end of the year. So if they're doing it like that, they're not going to have any more pay-per-views on for the rest of this year. And if it's a joint pay-per-view, then they're not going to put in money towards Wilder Fury 3, unless if it's sometime next year where they're going to have, I guess more people be able to attend the event. So, yeah, I just don't see it happening this year. Well, I don't think, that won't happen because I think the UK pretty much has the same restrictions as the US right now. So,
yes, they do.
So Wembley Stadium is definitely out. I mean, they're what is it? The Alexander Usyk, Derek Chisora fight, they're trying to have that in the O2, and they're not going to have, but 30 to 40% capacity for that. So how are you going to have a fight of, Fury Wilder's magnitude, in that? And for me, I feel like because of their overall deal, the 2-fight deal, both fights have to be in the U.S. They have to be. Like, you're not going to have, like, say, for example, Saudi Arabia buys the site, purchases the site fee, and then they have the fight over in Saudi Arabia. No one's really gonna want to go in the middle of Saturday afternoon to watch that fight. I don't see that happening. So they're gonna wait this out and just have it, sometime next year. Don't be surprised if it's, February of next year. That could be the case.
Well, I'm just glad we have marquee fights coming up. So we have a new generation of fighters, willing to fill the void. People always say boxing's dead, boxing's dead. We just have the young people coming up who have to make their mark and capture the public's attention.
Right.
And we have them.
Yep.
Start with Tank from this area.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one. So it's up to him how far he wants to take this thing for real.
Yeah. Yeah, and how serious he wants to be with it. Like I was saying earlier, Mayweather, TMT, and all of those, and they pitched it to Showtime, and they said, hey, this is going to be the guy. This is the next guy. So Showtime is investing their money into Gervonta Tank Davis. So he's, definitely going to have to come through and be that guy. You You also have like a Devin Haney that's coming up. I know that he has his thing here with Yuriorkis Gamboa. That'll be on November 7th. You also have Ryan Garcia, who I feel like they're really boosting him to be like the next De La Hoya. Has the following, outside of the ring, and pop culture and that type of thing, and he's able to attract fans to come inside the ring. So he has his upcoming fight against Luke Campbell. That'll be for a version of the WBC title. So if he gets through that, then he might be next up for a Devin Haney. And they've met in the amateurs before. They've jawed at each other a bunch of times. So I think they're trying to also try to build up that particular fight in the lightweight division. So.
Hey.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Myron, you still there?
That's fine. Who do you think? Who's the Ray Leonard? Who's the Hagman? Who's the Durant? And who's the Tommy Hearn? Should I say, with a more fair question is, who do you think comes out of that 5 count? Those 5 guys. Who has the most progressive career, trying to see into the future? Just wondering, who has the most upside, I should say? That's that.
I'm gonna stick with Tank. I like Devin Haney a lot. I think he has a world of potential. But right now I'm gonna stick with Tank. Yeah, I'm biased. I ain't gonna lie, I'm biased. Kelly showed me different. I'm riding with Tank.
Yeah, I think I feel like it's Tank. But here's the thing that I'm like. Here's my 2 questions, because I have two fighters, Tank and Haney. And the thing with Tank is, I don't know if he can be above where he is right now, or at least that far above where he is right now. With like Haney and with like a Teofimo Lopez and something like that, they could go up to 140 and probably as high as 147. But Tank doesn't necessarily have that type of build to really do that. So I think that he's going to establish himself at 135 pounds and kind of like extend his career there at 135. I mean, he was at 130, now moved up to 135. Yeah, I think that's where his career path is going to be at, is maintaining things at the 135 pound division and having those fights there. It's going to be interesting to see what he does after this fight against Leo Santa Cruz, because they've been having plans of either potentially having him against Lomachenko or against Ryan Garcia. And I don't think
he's going to pursue that fight after Lomachenko. Say planning to pursue that fight after the Teofimo fight.
Yeah, because the thing with Lomachenko is whether it's going to be at 135, 130. I think he wanted to move down to 130 after this fight against Teofimo Lopez. So, if Lomachenko comes out with the win, he makes his mark there as the unified lightweight champion of the world. And then he goes down to 130 pounds and pursues that fight against Gervonta Tank Davis. And they could make that fight there with Tank, and it'll be one of the biggest fights in the sport of boxing for some time with that, because I think that particular fight is closer to happening than Spence versus Crawford. I think that, the thing with Crawford, it's going to be a little while before that happens because they want to, basically get the money right for that fight. And to me, in order for that to happen, Crawford has to fight someone like a Thurman or a Porter and defeat them before he fights Errol Spence. Because their asking price is a little bit high, like up to, $10 million for each fighter. And that won't be able to work until Crawford could do something, there in the welterweight division. You know what I mean?
Hey, boxing source.
Yeah.
James, I think it's smart to let them fight now and then build up for the rematch. Down the road. But I think for the boxing itself, it needs those fights now. I mean, like the hit off, boom, 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 boom.
I feel you.
I don't think boxing is falling down a slippery slope right now. And I don't think it has no saving fights for hopefully big paydays in the day. Isn't doing any good. They need a lot of their fighters to fight. Now, same for big pay-per-views, hopefully. Ain't going to do any good. They need the fighters to build up their profiles a little bit more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then set up good rematch pay-per-views. If they have an excellent, they let the first fight go, they fight them now while they're in their 30s, early 30s, this is good. Because all of them in that age is around 30, 31, 32, right? So let them, I'm talking about like Spence Porter and all them, and before this Crawford. But Spencer Crawford's what, 33, Spence is 31, let them fight now. Yeah. And then let them have a rematch in about 2 or 3 years if they both rebound. But I don't think they need after the Garcia, but I think they need to make those fights as soon as possible for boxing, though, for the industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have
because think about this. When did Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns fight? How old was Ray Leonard when he fought Durant? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the rematch, everybody wanted to see that rematch between Hearns and Leonard too. That did awesome. They couldn't wait. So I don't think right now boxing is not in the healthy condition today as it was back then. So that's just my take on it. What do you think?
If we looking at these, fights that are coming up now, I know that we had, the pay-per-view recently with the Charlos, and then you have the upcoming one here with Tank Davis against Leo Santa Cruz. But outside of that, we've had some good matchups or very good fights that have been on, regular cable. And there are those that are still coming. So the thing is like they got to keep going with these good matchups because we know that they can do stuff like this. It's just that they don't want to do it. And if they want to do it, they want to have people pay a premium for it, which that doesn't, necessarily always work. We want to see, good fights or great fights or, good cards overall. And if we, get that, then, we're going to be pretty satisfied with it. But having them be like either stretched out or, to the point where, like you said, we got to wait till such and such a time for the fights to happen, that you don't necessarily always have that chance. Like we seen what happened with the whole back and forth with Wilder and Joshua. Now that is kind of getting towards not happening at all. You had the thing with Dylan White trying to pursue the world title shot in the WBC, and now that's kind of like fell by the wayside with his KO loss to Alexander Povetkin, and he has the rematch. So they got to be able to take advantage of these fighters that are at the best point of their careers right now, and having them fight right now instead of trying to wait it out. You know what I mean? So I think that coming out of this year, the tail end of this year, they got to keep it going through 2021 because they can't lose, any type of momentum they could have with the type of matches that have been put together. You know what I mean?
I agree wholeheartedly. You got to recapture the market and the imagination of the boxing public. So we can't have run-of-the-mill fights like a Danny Jacobs and Gabe Rosado. Why?
Yeah. Like there's no point in that.
I get that. It had no relevance whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
That's my post frame of thought.
Yeah. Yeah, that thing with Daniel Jacobs and Gabe Rosado, man.
I won't be one.
I wouldn't either. And the thing is, I like Daniel Jacobs. Like I'm a fan of Daniel Jacobs, but I think this is a fight where he's kind of like, okay, I'm getting paid regardless of who I fight. So I'm gonna just go ahead and fight Gabe Rosado. Because his main objective was to fight Canelo. That was his objective. So cash cow. Yeah. So he was able to make that fight, and he had the deal, before the fight. You get paid for the Canelo fight. You win, you get paid big time money. If you lose, we'll have a couple of other fights here for you where, of course, you get paid significantly less, but you basically get a guarantee. And with that guarantee, he fights anybody he wants. So he went ahead and fought Little Chavez. That's one. And then he had another one, which was Gabe Rosado, and that's that. So he wasn't like, and the thing with Matchroom, because Daniel Jacobs is like still under the advisement of Al Heyman. So it's like, are you going to pit Daniel Jacobs against your guys in Matchroom like a Billy Joe Saunders or a Callum Smith with the potential danger of having Jacobs win and then they take control of what the rematch would be or anything like that? Nah, they're not going to, go ahead and do that. So he's like, hey, let me just go ahead, have him fight this fight against Gabe Rosado. And then after that, he could, go along his merry way there in the super middleweight division. And, he could, fight those other guys at, at PBC, at super middleweight. You have.
Well past his prime.
Yeah.
It's taken a lot of time. So, this could be devastating, man.
Yeah.
And I don't like to see matchups like that. I really don't.
Yeah, the thing is, with Gabe Rosado, he's, kind of like two divisions up. And what was it, like March 12th, 2019? It was well around March 12th. It was around that weekend. He had to fight against Masih Selecki, and that was at 160. And that, was to, end up fighting Demetrius Andrade for the WBO title at middleweight. So now you have Gabe Rosado at 168. And I'm like, oh man, that's just not a good look. So I mean,
you mentioned the name, Demetrius Andrade. Nobody wants to fight this guy. Yeah. He deserves a marquee matchup.
Yeah.
He really does.
Yeah. I mean, I really like to see him against Jamal Charlo, but I really don't feel like they're going to, have Andrade fight him because of like what went down when he was supposed to fight Jamal Charlo at 154. They had the thing pretty much set, and then I think it was Demetrius' father kind of like nixed the fight. And ever since then, they've had bad taste in their mouths of Andre. So they really don't want to, give Andre that opportunity. So the thing with Jamal Charlo is Like he's looking for that Canelo fight. Because other than that, who else is out there but Gennady Golovkin? And Gennady Golovkin don't want to fight either one of those guys. Golovkin is just gonna, see if he can get a third Canelo fight, and after that, get paid and just ride on out. So
he deserves her Canelo fight, in my opinion. He really does.
So
He deserves it.
yeah, I just feel like after Golovkin does that, he's just gonna ride on out because he had that fight against Derevianchenko, and he's like, I don't know if I want those type of fights anymore. They don't, Derevianchenko's not a good boy, so I don't want to fight him. So there's that. Not a good boy. He not a good boy. So so yeah, I'm like, that's why he was fighting this Camille Cesare-Meta. And they're trying to make that a mandatory when Cesare-Meta hadn't really had a mandatory type fight yet. And I'm like, yeah, it's whatever, man. They just want to see if he could fight Canelo. But Canelo got that whole thing with the court, so who knows? It might be really bad where Canelo ends up in one of those Andre Ward type spats where he's not, hopefully not, but he might be out for about a year plus.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yep.
How do you think that move right there, the refiling of the lawsuit, because the first one seemed to have this wasn't filed correctly.
Right.
How do you think that make Canelo look in the eyes of the diehard Mexican fans in Mexico and outside?
I kind of felt like the fans in Mexico really don't like Canelo all that much. That's what I've been hearing. But as for me, I kind of see the situation like this. DAZN on one side said they understand the situation with Canelo Alvarez, right? So they're like, they really don't have any problem with Canelo Alvarez. But the deal that DAZN made was with Golden Boy. They didn't make it with Canelo. They made it with Golden Boy, and then Golden Boy forwarded all that stuff to Canelo. So there's been a spat between Canelo and Golden Boy for almost a year to a year and a half.
I think they do have a problem with Canelo. Don't get us wrong, they want him to fight premium fighters. We all saw that. They have a problem with the competition Canelo's fighting, so that means they have a problem with Canelo.
Yeah, it's a
business decision. Look at it from business. They're looking for fighters. Canelo, like I said before, Davin gave Canelo $365 million to take over America. And Davin, no, that's what they did. Because he's considered the face of boxing here. So they gave him $365 million to take over, help that DAZN solidify itself. When I say take over America, I mean help DAZN, which is a British company or whatever, solidify themselves here in America. All right? So that means he had to be their headhunter. He had to be their sniper. And since everybody wants to fight Canelo, they thought it would take it upon him. They expected him to take it upon himself to take out all the top dogs in that division. I mean, black, brown, green, whatever, no matter who they fight for here. Now, I think there's some issues. They wanted to sign these guys to 2 or 3 fight contracts, perhaps. But if Canelo said, I want to make that fight and then we get him, it's just got to be a one-fight deal, then they would have let him. But I don't believe Canelo wanted to do that. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't trying to fight Charlo. He wasn't trying to fight Golovkin again. He definitely didn't want to pick Erislandy Lara again. So he wasn't trying to get, Bubo Andre, even though he signed to his own as well, so it doesn't mean, but they wanted him to go after Charlo. You know what I mean? They were trying to go for everything, the market share that PBC had and whoever Top Mate had. That was the plan, and he hasn't done it.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, that's the point. I agree with you on that. Because Mexican fighters, you know, are known to fight anybody, anywhere, anytime, in their style. And that's what the Mexican fans really appreciate, the blood and guts, really. They don't like runners. They don't like runners. Macho, mano y mano. Those are the ones that they glorify. You know, because they're not that type of guy. He's not. You know, he became smarter after Mayweather schooled him, to be perfectly honest.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Smart. You know, business-wise, well, that I'm a businessman. Boxing is a business. You're not going to wear me out. I'm young. You know, I got family. I want to keep my brain cells intact. I make what it is and make the most amount of money that I can. So you know, I go for that. You know, I thought that. Take control of your own thing.
I mean, I feel that from a business standpoint, but I just felt like the whole deal was just, you know, not a good look from the top, right? Because for me, I mean, Canelo's supposedly the #1 guy, but he's significant. I think there's a significant difference between Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, and Canelo Alvarez from a marketing perspective. Like, Oscar De La Hoya was on one side, he was the good guy. Everybody liked him. Oh, this is me. I mean, I'm going into fight, and you know, I sing too, and you know, play the guitar. You know, that's what Oscar De La Hoya was. Floyd Mayweather kind of like went at it on the other side. He was the bad guy. You know, he marketed himself as the bad guy, and everybody wanted to see him lose. But that's what made him very successful from a business standpoint. Canelo Alvarez is like, I don't know, do people like him? Do people hate him? Like, what is it with them? So when he goes up against like a Gennady Golovkin the first time, at least for me, I wasn't really a fan of either one of those guys. So I really didn't have that much of an interest in that particular fight. You know, so with that being said, they go on that fight with HBO, and it gets around what 1.2 or 1.1 million pay-per-view buys. I was like, okay, it's not like a 2 million, it's not a 2.5, it's not like what Mayweather pulls, or what Oscar De La Hoya could pull. So that's that. So they go into the second fight, and first of all, they had like a real back and forth before that fight even was made. So they genuinely didn't like each other. And at that particular time, that's when the end of HBO was about to happen, because they really didn't have any type of fighters on HBO. So this was their biggest fight on HBO. And like I was saying, if I really don't have that much general interest towards either fighter one way or the other, I'm not going to really be, pushed to watch that fight. So they have the second fight, and it's 1.1 million pay-per-view buys. So you go into a negotiation with the zone and you say, hey, we have the #1 guy, but these are the numbers that Canelo was pulling. That's not going to be big enough. That's not big enough to have a $365 million deal. At least to me, it's not. Because if I've had my fights against Gennady Golovkin, and people feel like that's the biggest fight that could be made with Canelo, who else is out there in the middleweight, super middleweight, or like heavyweight division that's going to be even big enough for that to kind of make that money back? There isn't. At least not at least not at that particular time. So how are you going to make a 10 or 11 fight deal if you don't have a general plan that, okay, maybe he has this guy that he can eventually face that could get us our money back. You don't. Floyd Mayweather had that opponent that could get that money back, and his name was Manny Pacquiao. You know, but with Canelo Alvarez, you really don't see it. Like, is Jamal Charlo big enough for them to make a fight to say, hey, this fight between Canelo Alvarez and Jamal Charlo is the biggest fight in boxing? You don't have that yet. At least not now. So my thing is, how are you going to make that be the deal that you give out to Golden Boy Promotions or Canelo Alvarez if you don't know ahead of time that there's going to be a fighter or a couple of fighters out there that will give you the interest that you need for people to buy the zone or subscribe to the zone to make their money back? You don't. So I'm like, they went about it all wrong, and they're basically paying for it. But hey, the zone has the money anyway. Like Access Industries, they're like one of the biggest media companies in the planet. So if they want to blow that type of money, go right ahead. You know?
There's no argument for me. But I tell you now, there is a guy out there that they could bring back to fight against Canelo that could do mega business, and that's a guy coming out of retirement. Who am I referring to?
Is this a guy that could potentially be part of this year's Hall of Fame class, or is it?
No, because he hasn't been retired long enough. But I take back what I said earlier. I said Spence was number one pound for pound to me.
Mm-hmm.
I take that back. This guy I want to think about was pound for pound best to me. I forgot about him. All right, Andre Ward. Andre Ward. And
Oh, hey, he's on the ballot too. He is on the ballot. He's on the Hall of Fame ballot too. Him, Floyd Mayweather, James Toney, Latimer Klitschko, Miguel Cotto. Yeah, they're all part of that ballot. But yeah, Andre Ward, I think there was a time when they were talking about potentially having Canelo fight Andre Ward. And I think he had he said like how much it would take for him to, have that fight. Yeah. Yep. Which, it ain't that bad, So if y'all want to, have about, 50, 55 million or something like that to, make that fight happen, then hey, why not? But yeah, I have to see how that would turn out if Andre Ward would be a potential guy. But I think that would be the only one that I'd say is kind of big enough, because there's no current opponent out there that I see that would get enough interest for people to, really flock to the zone to kind of watch that fight. So there's that. Yeah. So it's like a little bit, after 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. Usually this is about the closing part of this particular podcast. Very thankful for having Henry Discombobulating Jones on this particular podcast with us. It was great to have you on. And yeah, definitely be catching up here with you, over the course of this year with any updates and things like that. Y'all be sure to find Henry Discombobulating Jones on social media. If you can, could you give your social media handles for people to follow?
Absolutely. IG is Announcer Jones. Facebook, Discombobulating Jones. You can reach me on email at therealkokid@gmail.com.
There you go. And with that being said, like I said, very thankful for everyone coming on to the show, calling in. Big thanks for Myron Magnus of Boxing Logic United for coming on here with us, and Henry Discombobulating Jones, our special guest. And we will be back here Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on October 18th. And like I say at the end of every show, folks, the point of boxing is to hit and not get hit, not to stand and trade. On that note, I'm out. Have a good evening, everybody.